So one of the questions that came in this week had to do with the date of origination of a business insurance policy. And the question was, can you backdate a business insurance policy? And the answer is yes or no. Well, you can't backdate a claim to say that it happened before the policy was created, but you may be able to obtain a policy that covers some prior losses. And we'll talk about that momentarily. In the meantime, don't forget to like this video. If you have questions, especially, or comments, put them in the section below so we know what's on your mind that we can answer and describe for you in more detail in the future. So when you buy a policy that covers losses, you can have two types of policies. You can have a claims-made or occurrence-made policy. And those will determine if you can have a loss covered that occurred before your policy was in place. They both refer to what's called the coverage time frame. An occurrence policy typically will protect you during the loss while the policy is in place. Only incidents that happened after the policy was initiated. But you may be able to get claims made, so you can make a claim for something that happened before the policy was in effect. Now, it can't be something that you know about. You have to state on the policy inception that you don't know about any potential risk or liability, or if you do, you have to disclose it. That's technically getting coverage for time before the policy was put in place. Sometimes there are different limits on those claims-made events. Sometimes it may have a time period. You can only go back a year or 6 months. Sometimes it's required that you would have had coverage on another policy during that time to show that you weren't uninsured during the policy period. So technically you can't backdate an insurance claim or an insurance policy, but you may be able to place a new insurance policy that has some coverage for later events. You can also get what's called tail coverage, which gives you coverage after a policy terminates for things that happen during that period. The most important thing, whether it's claims made, occurrence made, tail coverage, is that you very clearly describe to your agent or broker what type of policy that you want to have, what type of coverage you want to have for the risks, and that you get not only a very detailed understanding description of what your policy does cover, and that the policy language, what you see in writing, matches that description or your understanding. Remember that an occurrence policy is easy to own and maintain once you switch between insurers, but it's going to be more expensive. Claims made might be lower to begin with, but you can run the risk of running out of limit because the aggregate limit doesn't keep adding on every year, right? So there's pros and cons to each one. Make sure that your agent or broker or your producer describes the differences to you very, very clearly so you understand them, and it matches what your needs are and what your expectations are. Don't try to backdate a claim or make false statements on a claim or even make false statements on an application, because even if you have a claim that's not related to that false statement, you could find your entire policy be invalidated and voided because you made a false statement on the application. Even if it's something like, I don't know of any risk to my building or to my business. And if you have a claim later and you find out, or they find out that you had an email that internally recognized a certain risk, that can invalidate your policy. Again, get good legal advice from an attorney anytime you're considering or contemplating insurance coverage and risk and other legalities of commercial lines insurance, because you want to make sure that that important protection for your business is placed properly. Put comments below, ask us questions so we know how to respond to you in future videos.